Imagine you are walking through a quiet valley at dusk. The air is still, warm, soft with the fading light of an ancient sun. There are no voices here, no cities, no signs of machines, only the hush of wind sliding gently through the grass. Birds have long gone quiet, and in the distance, you hear the faint rustle of leaves, a sound so light, it feels like a memory. You are not in the present. You are somewhere far from now, a place untouched by noise or memory, a place that once was, and now is gone. You look down. Crumbling stones are scattered across the ground, their edges worn smooth by centuries of rain and root. There are broken pathways beneath your feet, leading nowhere and everywhere, half buried in the earth, small fragments of pottery, soft clay that once held water or wine or grain, but now just shards, lying quiet beneath moss and dust. There are no signs, no names, no stories left behind, just silence, and the faintest echo of lives once lived. This was a kingdom, or maybe many kingdoms, entire peoples, entire cities, with their own ways of living, their own beliefs, their own rituals and rhythms and routines. And now, all of it, gone. Not destroyed in fire, not erased in war, not buried by flood, just forgotten. Softly, slowly, over time. Tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, you will walk through these forgotten lands. You will drift through what once was, not in stories of conquest, but in the soft, uneventful rhythms of daily life. You will feel what they felt, taste what they tasted, sleep as they slept, under the same moon, in silence. You will not find great kings here, or famous battles, but you will find the quiet weight of time and the gentle dignity of lives that quietly faded into the soil. So now, let your breath slow, let your shoulders soften, and allow yourself to gently walk into history. There is nothing to do, nothing to fix, nothing to understand. Just listen, and drift, and breathe. The forgotten kingdoms will hold you tonight, and as you rest, their silence will speak. You wake to the sound of stillness. No clocks, no horns, just the soft chirp of something small, far beyond your window, and the distant rhythm of footsteps in the dirt. The floor beneath you is cool and smooth, pressed earth, packed tightly by years of footsteps before yours. The walls are made of stone, stacked carefully by quiet hands, held together by patience more than mortar. You are in a house. It is small, but it is enough. The sun has not fully risen, but the light has begun to touch the mountains. You are in Urartu, near a lake, in the highlands, where the sky opens wide and the air is crisp and thin. Your home smells faintly of ash and wool. A low fire flickers in the center of the room, warmed stones resting around it, and above them a pot of water, beginning to hum. You rise slowly. No hurry. There is nothing urgent here. You step outside, where the wind moves gently between terraced fields, lined with barley and wild herbs. Your neighbor is already gathering water. You nod. They nod back. No need to speak. You carry a clay jar to the well. It's heavy, but not unbearable. You've done this many times. The well's pulley creaks softly, and the water slaps against the bucket, before settling again, calm and clear. You lift the jar to your hip and begin the slow walk home. The dust kicks softly beneath your sandals, and the morning smells of smoke and bread and sheep. Your breakfast is simple: boiled barley, seasoned with a pinch of salt and whatever greens you gathered the day before. You eat it slowly, watching the steam curl upward into the dim air. The spoon is wooden, sanded smooth by time. It fits your hand perfectly. You sit on a small stool, listening to the fire crackle as the day begins. Outside, others begin their work. Someone leads a goat through a narrow path. Someone else kneels by a stone wall, replacing a broken brick. A child drags a stick through the dust, tracing lines you'll never understand. The rhythm is soft, but steady. There are no surprises here. No news. No new things. Only the comfort of repetition. Now, let your breath follow the rhythm of the hills, and imagine the world shifting softly beneath your feet. You are in Tartessos now, a place near the sea, a quiet coastal kingdom that once whispered across the shores of southern Spain. The air is warmer here, saltier, thicker with moisture and the faint smell of fish left drying in the morning sun. Your home is made of stone, but smoother than before. The floors are tiled with red clay, cool under your bare feet. Outside, gulls cry faintly, but they are not calling to you. They are calling to the sea. You stretch slowly, and the light of dawn presses in through the cloth-draped window. The smell of stew, from the night before, still lingers in the corners of the room. You dip your hands in a basin of water, splash your face, pat your neck with a woven cloth. The day begins. You step outside, and the streets are already alive, but not loud. Only the soft footsteps of others, the clink of pottery, the brush of a broom across stone. You walk to the market, not to buy, but to see, to nod, to notice. A man is repairing a fishing net. A woman is slicing figs. A child watches a crab scuttle across the dock and follows it with patient steps. You stop and speak with no one. You don't need to. Everyone here knows how the day goes. Lunch is lentils, simmered slowly in oil, with garlic and onion and sea salt. You eat on a low stool, overlooking the harbor. Boats bob gently in the tide, and the sky stretches out, unmoving, unchanging. Let's drift again, this time, to the east, far into the valleys of the Indus River. You are in a Harappan city, a place of order, where everything has been built with care, but no one seems to rule. Your home is nearly identical to your neighbor's. Same bricks, same layout, same bathing space in the back corner. You rise with the light, always with the light, and you step quietly into the morning, your feet brushing the cool stone floor. You pour water over your hands, wash your face, dry off with a soft cloth. You dress in simple fabric, dyed with the brown of mud, the beige of wheat, the red of clay. You prepare a small meal, some dried fruit, a bit of bread, a handful of nuts. You eat slowly, always slowly. Outside, the streets are swept clean. There is no trash, no noise, just a few others, walking at the same pace as you. A woman opens her shutters. A man arranges small beads on a flat board. A cart rolls by, its wooden wheels thumping softly against the bricks. The market is quiet, no shouting, no bargaining, only gestures, nods, and trust. You buy a bit of fabric, trade for some turmeric, and return home with the weight of the day still ahead, but never rushing toward it. Evenings are soft. In Urartu, you gather by the fire and watch the shadows flicker across the stone walls. In Tartessos, you walk the shoreline, picking up driftwood, listening to the waves roll in without hurry. In Harappa, you sweep your floor and light a small oil lamp and sit in silence as the light flickers in a shallow bowl. There is no music, just breathing, just presence, just the weight of one day settling down into sleep. Imagine the way people live together, not in palaces, not in battlefields, but in soft arrangements, unspoken rules, quiet hierarchies, simple roles passed down by habit, not force. Let us begin, once more, in Urartu. The mountain kingdom was ruled by a king. Yes. But you never saw him. He lived far away, in a fortress, atop a hill where clouds touched stone. You heard his name in blessings, in temple chants, but never with fear. His rule was distant. Your life was local. You belonged to your family, to your neighbors, to your work. Perhaps you were a farmer, or a stoneworker, or a shepherd leading slow-moving sheep across steep slopes. There were no medals, no titles, only the knowledge that the grain had to be stored before the frost, that the goats needed shelter before the rain. Your social world was close, tight, woven from years of repetition. Women prepared food, spun wool, sang lullabies passed down from voices long gone. Men repaired tools, hauled water, and sometimes sat in quiet clusters at twilight, passing a drinking bowl between them. No one was rich, but no one was alone. At the edge of the village, there stood a small stone temple. No gold, no statues, just a space to offer grain, or a carved amulet, or a whisper to the gods of wind and mountain. And the gods never answered loudly, only with seasons and silence. Now let us move gently to Tartessos. This place felt different. It was a port, a trading city. Wealth came and went with the tide. But still, life remained simple. Some people shaped metal, some fished, some told stories, and some just listened. Elders held respect, not because of crowns, but because of memory. They remembered which paths flooded in spring. They remembered how to dry olives without turning them bitter. They remembered the stories of the stars, and when to begin the harvest, and how to mend nets in just the right way. Children sat at their feet, not asking questions, just listening. Wives lit lamps at dusk, not for ceremony, but for comfort. Husbands returned with baskets of shellfish and wet hems, and they smiled when they saw the fire already going. Your social role was not written, it was lived, day by day, in tasks, in shared meals, in routine. And now, let's visit Harappa again, a city of bricks, a city of stillness. Here, something unusual appears. There were no kings, no grand tombs, no palaces that towered above the rest. The homes were equal. 2 rooms, sometimes 3, courtyards in the back, water cisterns carved deep. Everyone had a place to bathe. Everyone had a place to sleep. There were no warriors carved into stone, no parades, no chariots. The society seemed ruled by custom, by quiet order, by invisible agreements no longer known to us. Priests may have existed, but they left no monuments. Only small figurines, smooth and delicate, shaped by hands that worked slowly and carefully. Trade was balanced. Seals were stamped with symbols. Not names, not kings, just animals, trees, and marks whose meanings are now lost to time. It was not a loud society, but it was clean, planned, peaceful. People knew what was expected, and they met those expectations in silence. No one rushed, no one ruled, and no one shouted. They just lived. Across all these kingdoms, daily life was shared, but culture was the shape of that sharing. From mountain temples to coastal ports to inland cities of brick and water, the rhythms were different. But all were slow. All were gentle. All were steady. Clothing was handmade, meals were shared, stories were short, but remembered. People walked the same paths, spoke the same greetings, offered the same blessings, generation after generation. Nothing remarkable, nothing loud, nothing urgent, just lives, lived quietly, within soft circles of belonging. And now, as your breath deepens, we'll turn softly toward the wider world and see how these kingdoms began to disappear. History doesn't always end with a bang. Sometimes it just fades, like mist dissolving in morning sun. No battle, no fire, just disappearance. Let us begin again with Urartu, a kingdom high in the mountains, surrounded by snow-fed lakes and stone citadels. For centuries it thrived. Its people spoke a language we can barely translate. Its engineers carved irrigation systems through rock, and its stonemasons built walls that still stand. But empires grow impatient, and far to the south, the Assyrians rose. At first, they sent messengers, then merchants, then armies. Urartu resisted. For generations, they held their mountain fortresses. They melted into the landscape, fighting from behind stone and snow. But over time, they were worn down. One city was sacked, then another, until at last, their capital fell. There are no records from the Urartians, only Assyrian carvings showing flames and chains and silence. The people weren't destroyed. They were absorbed. Their language vanished. Their customs diluted. Their name forgotten. Only ruins remain, scattered stones on wind-swept cliffs, watched only by shepherds and birds. Now, we drift back to the west, to Tartessos, the city that glittered by the sea. For a time, it flourished. Greek sailors spoke of its metals. Phoenician traders docked in its ports. Its people spoke a language now lost. Its leaders welcomed strangers and bartered in gold. But then the strangers stayed too long. The Carthaginians began to dominate the western Mediterranean. Trade routes shifted, rivalries grew, and Tartessos found itself cut off. Then came the floods, not all at once, but gradually. Some say an earthquake reshaped the coast. Some say the river changed course. Others whisper of a tsunami. Whatever the cause, the city began to sink. Its buildings were swallowed, its harbors filled with silt, its streets drowned. Today, no one knows exactly where Tartessos stood. We search, we dig, we guess, but the city never answers. It is lost. Let us return once more to Harappa. It is the quietest disappearance of all. No invaders, no weapons, no fires, just a slow unraveling. For centuries, Harappa was a marvel: planned streets, flowing water, peaceful trade with distant lands. But then, the river changed. The mighty Sarasvati dried up. Trade declined. Fields turned to dust. And still, they endured. They built smaller homes. They traded with new neighbors. They adapted. But the rain didn't return, and the river didn't flow, and the silence grew heavier. Eventually, the people left. Not all at once, but little by little. They scattered, blended into other cultures, took their customs with them, but left their city behind. No final war, no final monument, just the wind blowing through empty bricks. And now, we drift into shadow. There were other kingdoms, dozens more, each with their own story, and their own quiet end. Dilmun, a trading hub in the Persian Gulf, vanished beneath rising tides and forgotten scripts. The kingdom of Aksum, once mighty in East Africa, faded after climate change and shifting trade winds. The Nabateans, builders of Petra, melted into Roman rule, their language and gods fading like smoke. Even the sea peoples, mysterious raiders of the Bronze Age, left behind only shattered cities and unanswered questions. Why do they vanish? Why do some names survive and others dissolve? Sometimes it's nature, sometimes it's war, sometimes it's simply time. Civilizations are not forever. Even the greatest fade, not with screams, but with whispers. The stones remain, but the stories are gone. Unless you remember. And now, you have remembered. You've traveled far tonight, through sun-drenched valleys, through dust-covered ruins, through whispers of empires long gone, and now it is time to rest. Close your eyes, if they aren't closed already. Let your body feel heavier. Let your breath soften and fall into rhythm with the stories still echoing in your mind. Think of the cities that once lived: Tartessos, Harappa, Urartu. Think of their quiet streets, bathed in moonlight, where laughter once rang and markets buzzed with life. Now, those streets are still, the people long gone, the walls crumbled, but in some strange way, they are not lost, not truly, because tonight you walked among them, you remembered, and that alone is an act of preservation. History isn't only written in stone or scroll, it is carried in memory, in feeling, in silence, the silence you feel now, the quiet between thoughts. That is where ancient things still live. Let your thoughts drift like sand. Let images rise and fall. A ruined tower, a vanished flag, a city underwater, a name you almost remember, but not quite. That's how memory works. It doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to hold the feeling. And the feeling is still here. You might feel a little smaller now, but not in a bad way. You've seen how whole civilizations, entire peoples, can vanish without a sound. And yet, here you are, breathing, thinking, resting, a living archive of what was and what still matters. You carry the echoes, not just of your time, but of all time. As you begin to drift off, let your imagination float back to that high mountain fortress of Urartu, mist curling along its walls, to the golden streets of Tartessos just before the waves came, to the straight, orderly roads of Harappa before the rains stopped, and then to the quiet, the great, restful quiet. It's okay to let go now. There are no questions to answer, no mysteries to solve, just the rise and fall of breath, and the feeling that you are not alone in time. Others came before, others will come after, but tonight you rest here, in between, at the edge of forgetting and remembering. Let that be enough. Let sleep take you the way time took those forgotten cities, gently, quietly, without resistance. You've remembered enough for one night. The kingdoms will wait. Their stones aren't going anywhere, and the silence they left behind will welcome you again. Whenever you return, now, rest.